Hey everyone, it's Dr. Marcus Chacos with Author Mastery with my dictaphone, because today I'd like to talk with you about why it's important for you to write as you speak. Listen, before I go into the dictaphone and before I talk about why I've got this prop in the background, I want to start with the principle of understanding some of the challenges that people have with writing a book. And that is firstly starting from an empty page, or starting from not having an idea of what they want to write or even how they are going to go about writing. And that's why writing as you speak is such an important part of that process. So think about your conversations with your patients. You are in the situation where they come to you with a challenge or a desire to have some type of a solution or experience, and you know the framework for that conversation. It starts with a history based on the presenting complaint. You may do an examination, you may send off for further tests, and then you will reveal what the meaning behind those tests are, and then you'll give a recommendation, you'll begin care and provide ongoing education as part of that process, do reviews and do regular ongoing reviews and continue the educational process. You've got a framework, you know exactly how that's going to work, and it happens time and again, beautifully, efficiently, effectively, because you have expertise in that process. Well, writing is that conversation, but in print. Writing a book is taking all of those messages, the words that you have shared, the desire to help that you have delivered within the framework of those conversations, putting it into print to share that message in a powerful and compelling way. Does that make sense? The difference is you're not going to sit there with an empty page and say, what do I say to my patient from day one? What do I say from day two? Because that is a little contrived at times. You can do it, and some chiropractors do it and do it well, but for me, this has been my best friend for writing books. So I sit down and I think about, okay, new client comes in, what do I want to tell them? Then I click record. And I say, this is the conversation that I have so often. It's the conversations I have time and again. And it's the conversations, hear those words, the conversations I have time and again that get put into print. Because when you write as you speak, when you have a conversational style interview that relates to your communication of the message you want within your consultation, it is read as a normal conversation versus a contrived conversation. When you try to say things in this scientific way, or this cursed with knowledge way, where it becomes all scientific or theoretical, then it becomes an unreadable book, an unmoving book, and honestly an impractical book. On the other hand, if you have the conversations that you have every day with your patients where they hear you speak and they're like, yeah, that makes perfect sense to me. Oh no, I understand you completely. I really appreciate you saying that. And you continue to get this positive feedback. It's because you talk personally with them. You relate to them on their level. And when you take those words, those conversational and communicational interactions, and put them into print, they read the same way in print as they are heard in their ears or in their mind. And so conversational style writing is a really important part of creating a relatable book. You're not trying to write a textbook. You're trying to write a conversation so the reader hears in their mind and feels in their heart the same experience that takes place when they sit here with you. And that's what causes them to ring up, make an appointment, they read your book and say, that is somebody that I want to work with. They get me, they understand me. I'm hearing what they're saying in my head, I'm feeling it in my heart, and I know they're going to be able to help me. So how do you go about doing that? Now I'm going to give you a quick lesson here. Again, for me, I simply grab a dictaphone. This shirt doesn't have a pocket, but I might put it there so my hands are free. And then I'd imagine that I'm going to explain this. So here is a conversational. Pretend as you're here with me, but the patient might be here with me. And I'll say, okay, we've seen before we look at your x-rays, this is getting tight. Before we look at your x-rays, I want to show you what normal looks like on an x-ray so that you can have an understanding of where your body is at. You'll see this beautiful, lovely flowing curve here. This is called it's your neck curve. In here it's written cervical, but let's just call this the natural curve of your neck. Then you have this beautiful natural curve of your back, and then your lower back has a curve again going in the opposite direction. And then if we look at the degenerative changes that can take place in the spine, we can see a straightening of the curve here, and then we can see these bone spurs. And again, I'm not going to go through that, but you can see that I'm having a conversation. That conversation helps them understand what's happening. Then I'll go across to my computer and I'll show them their x-rays. And their x-rays will have their own education information embodied in that. And as I record all of this, then I send it off for transcription and it gets sent back to me as a Word document. I have the word-for-word conversation that I had. And then I have a page to write from. Now that's not going to turn out to be the exact pages of the words on the pages of my book, but it's a starting point. It's an effortless way to start writing a book. Hearing the words that you say, sharing the message that you normally deliver, and then communicating, how do I piece that together or put that together in a book? And that is conversational style interviewing. That is writing as you speak so that people can hear the book, respond to the book in that real, tangible, mental, emotional way. And finally, the last part that I really want to communicate about this, which is interview style communication, is if you don't find that comfortable, if you're not even sure where to start, that's why you reach out and get help. If you would like me to interview you about what is your niche, what is your area of expertise, what are you interested in writing on, what is a message that you want to share, we'd then build a table of contents. That table of contents would mean that I then ask you a host of questions around that. What education you're delivering, what message do you want to share? Then after a 2 or 3 hour conversation where you have got all of this information out of your head, it'll now be down on the page and you have written a book in a 3 hour conversation, or the starting or the draft of a book. It's that easy when you understand that it's much easier to share your message by speaking, recording that spoken conversation, putting it in print and then working from there, than it is sitting down at a desk saying, what do I want to say? So if you'd like help writing a book, having a conversation, recording that conversation and putting it to print, that's exactly what method I use, amongst others, to help people get the book out of their head, onto the pages and out into the community. So reach out, I'd love to be able to help you too.